Books on Tape presents Hallowed Ground, A Walk at Gettysburg, written by James M. Mcpherson, read by Grover Gardner. Prologue. In his address at the dedication of the cemetery for Union soldiers killed in the Battle of Gettysburg, President Abraham Lincoln acknowledged that, in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our power to add or detract. More than any other place in the United States, this battlefield is indeed hallowed ground. Perhaps no word in the American language has greater historical resonance than Gettysburg. For some people, Lexington and Concord, or Bunker Hill, or Yorktown, or Omaha Beach would be close rivals. But more Americans visit Gettysburg each year than any of these other battlefields, perhaps than all of them combined. And Gettysburg resonates far beyond these shores. At least 60,000 foreigners are among the nearly 2 million annual visitors to the battlefield. In 1851, the British historian Sir Edward Creasy wrote a famous book titled 15 Decisive Battles of the World. The last of the 15 was Waterloo, fought in 1815. After the American Civil War, Creasy published a new edition with the 16th decisive battle, Gettysburg. During the bicentennial commemorations of the American Revolution in 1976, a delegation of historians from the Soviet Union visited the United States as a goodwill gesture to take part in these events. A colleague of mine on the history faculty at Princeton University was one of their hosts. When they arrived, he asked them which historic sites they wanted to visit first. Perhaps Independence Hall in Philadelphia, or maybe Williamsburg and Yorktown in Virginia, or Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. But their answer was none of these. They wanted to go first to Gettysburg. "Why Gettysburg?" asked my astonished colleague. "It had nothing to do with the American Revolution." "To the contrary," replied the Russians, "it had everything to do with the Revolution. In Lincoln's words, it ensured that the nation founded in 1776 would not perish from the earth." These Soviet historians may have been more familiar with Lincoln's Gettysburg Address than was my colleague. They knew that the famous opening words of that address, 77 years ago, referred to the founding of the United States in 1776, and that Gettysburg was the battlefield on which thousands gave the last full measure of devotion that the nation might live. These Russians also wanted to see Gettysburg first because they compared it to their Battle of Stalingrad in World War II. It was the costliest battle in America's own great patriotic war that turned the tide toward ultimate victory. In 1896, the United States Supreme Court handed down a decision that has stood for more than a century as a landmark in the struggle for historic preservation of hallowed ground. Not surprisingly, that decision grew out of events surrounding the recent creation of Gettysburg National Military Park. The Gettysburg Electric Railway Company had built a trolley line over the southern part of the battlefield to carry tourists to Devil's Den and the Round Tops. The park wanted to buy the land and restore it to its 1863 appearance, which of course would mean removal of the trolley line. The company refused to sell. The government began proceedings to seize the land under the power of eminent domain. The case went to the Supreme Court, where the government argued that the ground whereon great conflicts have taken place, especially those where great interests or principles were at stake, becomes at once of so much public interest that its preservation is essentially a matter of public concern. Nowhere were such great principles at stake more than at Gettysburg, which embodied the national idea and the principle of the indissolubility of the Union. The court agreed. The justices ruled unanimously that Gettysburg was vested with such importance for the fate of the United States that the government had the right to take possession of the field of battle in the name and for the benefit of all the citizens of the country. Such a use seems so closely connected with the welfare of the Republic itself as to be within the powers granted Congress by the Constitution for the purpose of protecting and preserving the whole country. The Battle of Gettysburg was an event without equal in its connection with the welfare of the Republic itself, as the court put it. But what is Gettysburg as a place? It is a battlefield of about 10 square miles, 5 miles from north to south and 2 miles from east to west, not counting East Cavalry Field, surrounding a county seat town of about 8,000 people today, 2,400 at the time of the battle in 1863.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?